Seattle House Mafia.
All right, welcome back to another edition of Industry Interviews with Seattle House Mafia. My guest this evening started collecting vinyl and tapes from the ripe old age of 8 years old. He's been a fixture in the Northwest rave scene, both as a participant and as a DJ since '92. He has multiple releases on Telemer Plastic out of Germany, as well as his own label, Basement Sounds. And finally, he is the owner of Seattle's only dance music record store, Selector Records. We want to give a warm welcome to Sherman Crawford. What's going on, Sherman?
What's up?
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great.
Well, you just came off the decks, right? Which is a little bit opposite of how we normally do it. So let's talk about that. Tell me about your mix a little bit.
Well, goddamn.
It was hot, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was like a wild ride for me, but I loved it.
It was, you would think that the more records you have, the easier it would be to put together sets. It is the exact opposite. And I was like, where do I start? And it was like, it was really like some stuff that I've pulled like deep out of the collection lately, where I was like kind of rediscovering stuff.
Nice.
But it's all like kind of based around what I'm inspired by, and based off hearing new shit that reminds me of old stuff. I'm gonna try to not cuss.
No, you can cuss all you want.
All right.
So what? No, I'm sorry, I just interrupted you. You're gonna say something else.
I don't remember.
Well, what I was gonna ask you is, for instance, make this about me for 3 seconds.
Do it.
I'm gonna do a drum and bass vinyl mix soon, and there's one record that I absolutely love, and it's a little bit hard, and I'm trying to build the set around this particular record. Do you approach it that way, or does it all depend on the set? Like, what's your approach when you're putting a set together, especially vinyl?
That is a huge factor. Like one record,
You definitely want to play.
you're
right?
like, it starts off with like a little stack of like new stuff, and then it can be based around one or two records, and it's like, how do you incorporate those? And then you're like, well, what time am I playing at? And can I even fit these into this set at this spot?
Right.
And you try to envision the room and who might be there, and you're like, this is not gonna work, or fucking I can't wait to play this. And it's like, well, how am I gonna start? And who's playing before me? Who's playing after me? How do I? It's always a puzzle.
Yeah.
And I'm sure every single DJ encounters that. It's like, unless you're playing the same shit, all like the whole set.
Which,
like,
if you are, you're fucking boring. Let's be honest.
and I've been guilty of doing that. I went into this. I was late on the minimal tip, and it's kind of embarrassing. But it's with minimal techno, it's very easy to get fucking caught in the minimal rut.
Right.
And then you're like, it's hard to get out of. So you definitely need to know your music, and I've run into a situation lately the last couple of years with having the shop where I'm inundated with new records and like stacks. Like it's crazy, because I'm like, I skip through them and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is cool, like, sell this, keep that, and I can't tell you how many records that I have sitting around where I'm like, I know it's a house record and I know it's dope, but like I can't remember exactly what it sounds like.
Right.
And it gets kind of crazy, like trying to put together a set, and it's usually like you pull a couple crates worth, and then you have to like really fine tune it, narrow it down to like, and it's more like eliminating at that point. Like,
sure,
that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. And then it's like, what I do is I go, these are the ones that I fucking have to play.
Right.
That I'm just like, this is going in the box without a doubt, and then filling in the blanks. Little batches of records that will kind of lead up to that, and then it's helpful to know where you're going to end up.
That's a good call. Now, I was wondering, because you're playing here, there's no DJ before you, there's no bar sales to worry about, there's no dance floor to worry about clearing. Like, was it easier? Was it harder? Was it just different to pull the shit that you pulled tonight? I'm
so glad you mentioned that, because I was like, I pulled out this record, and shout out to Josh Purdon, DJ Quest, Josh Quest. This is one.
He comes up in every conversation I have with.
I consider him one of the fucking pioneers of like
Absolutely.
the Seattle electronic, like early rave scene.
Yep.
Dude fucking killed it. It was inspiration. Musically, he bridged so many gaps, but he used to start out some of his sets with this, and it's surface sounds ska.
Love it.
Hard one to find, but I don't know. Like I did a live stream the other day, and I started with this, and I didn't really like pull records for this set today until today.
Okay, I'm
And
just making sure you put some work in. You kind of disappoint.
Well, I did. Like I had some stuff that was in mind, and then some of those records got lost, and I was fucking digging today trying to find them and like kind of going nuts. That happens a lot in the shop, but
So that was the intro track with the like the really like
those
cool
those hi-hats
percussive build up, right?
and that bass line.
So good. Yeah, that was so good.
And the vocal sample in it, for years, like nobody could figure out what it was, but it's actually a sample of Public Enemy, and I found that out from someone commenting on the record on
Love it.
Discogs.
Love it.
And they found that sample accidentally based off one of their old VHS tapes of a wedding, and it was playing in the background, Public Enemy playing in the background, and they were like, "That's that sample from that from this
way.
rare record."
That's so geeky. I love it. So geeky. But I love it, dude. That's like the. I mean, that's part of the love of what we do, and when we're digging for records and we're like
Just loving the music.
yeah, absolutely,
Like
man.
giving a shit about like what it says and like where it might have been sampled from.
Totally. Is there anything else? Like, I know you played some rare tracks too. I know that's one of your things as well, right? You have some records that just no human on earth can find anymore, right?
Well,
Be honest.
okay, so then the answer is no to that. Other people can find them, but it's like, has anyone played them recently?
Right.
Or I don't know. That I do have some that I feel like, I don't know. I have a lot of records where I'm the only person that I've ever heard play it, but it's not that I go out
Right.
every night everywhere. But I don't know. I kind of pride myself on obscure records because, and I'm going to shout out the Wicked crew, and like some of the earliest parties that I went to.
Totally.
Fucking Thomas and Marky, all those guys. Thomas was my favorite, but blowing my mind, and I'm like, where would you ever even find this record? Like, what is this? Like, it's like almost not even dance music.
Right.
Like, what the fuck is this? And I kind of like gauge everything on those early days of having my mind blown, and I always just wanted to hear more stuff that I'd never heard.
Right.
And so I kind of like, that's how I play records, is I try to like play shit that no one's heard, and that doesn't always work
Yeah.
for the dance floor.
Oh, I could see that. Yeah, for sure. Right.
Yeah.
But that's the balance, and I think you're probably being a little hard on yourself, because I mean, what I heard tonight, like, I didn't recognize one record, frankly, and I have a pretty big collection, man. I didn't recognize anything you played, so, and I'm always looking and digging and doing my part too. But yeah, it was that's what's cool. I was super into your set and didn't recognize
Thank
a
you.
track. You know what I mean? So that was pretty cool.
That was kind of intentional, because like, I
Yeah.
mean, that's very intentional.
Yeah.
Like, because I know that this is going to be archived, and yeah, I was pulling some crazy shit.
Yeah, it's great. Well, so let's go back a little bit, because in my intro, we talk. You've been collecting music since you were 8 years old. Like, what got you into that?
I can thank my mom for signing me up for breakdance lessons.
Thanks, Mom.
Yep, dumping me off at Ballard High School, and then like in that same time period, all of a sudden I had a cassette that was a breakdance compilation. That was the first tape I remember having.
Do you remember what it was? I'm curious because I had a few.
You know, I've tried to find it on Discogs, and I was like, why am I not finding this exact release?
Right.
But I can imagine, actually, I know for a fact there were so many compilation tapes that came out of the same sort at that time.
They had like Rocket and Tour de France and
yes,
totally.
And like this with the fucking, I think that the background on the tape was like a brick wall.
Yeah.
With like the artist names like semi graffitied in like an old computer font, like not actually graffitied, but like,
Yep.
And it was like breakdance, you know, something like volume 2. It was
Totally.
I don't know. And I can't figure it out. It drives me nuts, actually.
Yeah.
Especially being like a Discogs geek. I'm like I want that tape again.
Right. No, absolutely. And so you got that breakdancing background and that. Do you still breakdance, by the way?
No, I didn't stick with it. I wish I did, because when I watch like the competitions, it's mind blowing.
Those guys are such good athletes. They're acrobats.
Oh,
they're dancers. They're like
God.
actors. Like there's so many elements to breakdancing.
Yeah, I'm like, you know, I have bad wrists from skateboarding, and I'm like, when they're doing I'm like,
or the one hand. I weigh 210 pounds. Like one hand balance and like lifting themselves with.
Yeah,
Forget it. Those guys are amazing.
Yeah, and I'm almost 50, so like, no, I didn't stick with it, but like the music stuck with me.
Absolutely.
Right after that, you know, from skateboarding, got into punk rock, and of course hip hop, because like the skate videos back then they were like some of the best soundtracks ever.
So raw, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And you know, in sixth grade, BC Boys, License to Ill, and then, you know, all the punk, and then, you know, going to my first rave at 17.
Yeah.
And like the clash of the energy of punk rock and like the hyped up like breakdance beats all smashed into like a fucking giant sound system.
Yeah.
I was like just blown away.
It's so good. Yeah. It's I never got into the punk stuff, but actually when I work out, I listen to punk now, because I dig it. It's either like golden era hip hop or it's punk when I lift weights, and I don't listen to dance music, but you know, whatever. It just works for me.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Yeah. So I kind of understand where the love for music came from. And you also had some older siblings, it sounds like, who probably influenced you and gave you some access to music as well, right? Just like I did. I think a lot of kids coming from our era had those older brothers, sisters, who were going to concerts. And
my older brother, I shared a room with him for a while, and he had a lot of records and tapes and 8-track even, and that was like definitely inspiring for me, just like sitting there staring at the tape covers and listening to this stuff. And I remember like this, there was a Dio tape where like the tape cover just like creeped me out.
Yeah.
But I'd stare at it and just be like, it was like a picture of like a demon, and like,
yeah, I
like,
think I know which one you're talking about.
I'd be like, and like he'd be listening to stuff, and I was just like mesmerized.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know, like the whole like physical media thing, like, I don't know, I can't get away from it.
Right.
I love it. I love like holding stuff in my hand like while I'm listening to it, and like researching it, and like, just, I don't know. It's fucking geeky.
No, man. Well, it's funny. So I want to tell you a little story. So, I knew of you for a long time, but I'd never like officially formally met you. And then one time last year, it was like June, July, summertime, I get on my bike. My wife's like, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to go to the record store." And she's like, "What do you mean record store?" And I go, "What do you mean? What do I mean?" and she's like, "Well, don't you buy your music online? I always see you on your computer." I'm like, "Oh, I get it. No, this dude, there's one dude in Seattle who owns a record store that's dedicated to dance music named Sherman. And I know who he is, but I don't know him. I want to go to a shop and see what it's all about, you know?" And so I went up to the store. I was a little bit nervous, honestly, because you do know a bunch of people that I know, and I didn't want you to think I was some poser or something, because I've been in this shit for like 30 years, right? And like within like 5 minutes, Sherman and I are having 3 hours go by, right? And so I leave not only with a bag of records, but with a new homie, and then also booked to come play back at your store a 3-hour vinyl set, which I thought it was
dope.
super cool. Yes.
Oh my God.
But it was risky. You know, you didn't know what I was all about, really. So, you know.
I trusted it.
But
yeah,
that's
it
how it
was
worked.
dope. Yeah, that was a great set.
It was really fun. I mean, between you and me, that's probably the funnest gig I played in a while. Like, since COVID, really. Like, well, we've done some cool shit at the beach, but like coming to your place and playing by myself, vinyl, not sharing with anybody, taking it on the journey that I want to go on.
Yeah.
And 3 hours is like enough room to breathe. And there's not really the pressure of the dance floor, even though I play pretty like dancey percussive anyway when I do house. And one of the funny moments I just remember now, when you're talking about abstract records, there was one record where you're like, dude, what is this? It's got this female vocal sample that's real repetitive. And I show you, it's just a white label on both sides. I have no idea.
Oh yeah.
That's the beauty, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, that's the one I want to know.
It's the one you want to know. I'm like, I don't know, bro. I've had it forever in my stack. So yeah, that was my intro into your store. And then what I realized about you is you've just done such a good job of like curating the history of the Pacific Northwest dance scene for, I don't know, so like the early 90s with flyers and different, I don't know. It was amazing to me. Like, not that it wasn't like walking into a time warp, because I would make it sound like you're this nostalgic thing, because you're not. Like, you're doing this. You're doing this forward-thinking dance music thing, but there's a ton of history built into your store, which is so dope.
Which I want that. And, and like, it's funny because, like, you know, I told you about that giant. Actually, I showed you the flyer box.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's massive.
That's what blew me away.
And I had a friend of mine that, you know, way before I opened the shop, but it was like right when I moved back to Seattle, I showed her this flyer collection, and she was doing something with maybe the Seattle Art Museum, and
okay,
I was trying to figure out a way that I could display them, and I never figured it out. And it wasn't until I opened the shop, and I was putting really cool record sleeves on the ceiling, like tiled like the floor, and I started to run out of the jackets, and I was like, what am I gonna do with the rest of the ceiling? And I was up on the ladder, and I'm like, fucking flyers.
That's so good.
Duh. And like, I didn't finish the whole ceiling because, like, you know, I was maybe going to get kicked out of the building last summer.
Right.
So I stopped putting them on the ceiling. But how the hell did we start talking about that?
No, I was just talking about the first time we met, which is like we knew each other forever, but we really had never met each other, which that's why I wanted to get you in here.
And then we started talking about the Groove Tech thing,
which
you guys have to get Zach in here.
Yes.
I mean,
I agree. I agree with you.
And BPM.
Yeah.
And John Cunningham.
Yeah.
Get them all in here.
Yeah.
And
I would love it. Maybe I'll shove them all on one couch. So make it super awkward.
Okay. Anyways.
We're doing that. So if we go back a little bit, right? Like the record store thing is a big endeavor that I want to get to, but I know you're from here, you're born and raised, but you actually took off to Hawaii for a little bit. And tell us about that experience for a second and why you left. Or why you left Seattle, first of all.
Burnout. A lot of stuff was kind of falling apart here. Like, it was a crazy time in 2005. I shouldn't say that a lot of stuff was falling apart, but definitely a lot of people falling apart on drugs that were around me.
Yeah.
I guess myself included. And one of my best friends, Dave Zam, had moved out to the Big Island, and I went out for a visit, and he was throwing parties out there, and I came out and played one of the parties, and it went off. And
I can only imagine in Hawaii.
It was so dope. And he was like, man, you should just move out here. It's like blowing up out here. And I was like, I need a change. I need to switch it up. And I just moved out there and got happily stuck for almost 12 years.
Was it blowing up because it was a different scene, or was it blowing up because they were a little bit behind what was happening on the coasts?
Both. I mean, they were like way behind, but not really behind, but just like different.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it being one of the most remote island chains in the world, like, definitely, even with the internet though, but like still like it was just like behind, but like different in its own way, where it was like untouched. And like when I moved out there, I didn't give a shit what was happening on the mainland anymore. I was like, that's admittedly why a lot of people move out there. They're like,
Right.
I need to get the fuck out of here. I don't care what's going on out there anymore. I'm out here now, and it's just a different scene. And it's like, it's super renegade. Definitely like tighter, like tight knit crews.
Yep.
Beach parties.
Yep.
Generators, fucking jungle, like private property. There's like on the Big Island, there's like no clubs. There's
Right.
like little like small like bars.
So you guys are doing these. Now your event was indoor, outdoor. This monthly that you were talking about. Or
Yeah,
what?
it wasn't my thing. I just kind of came into it. It was Dave Zam and
You just became part of it. I got you.
yeah. It was, DJ Unity, who's from Kona, who works for Roland now.
Nice.
Badass dude. They were doing a monthly called Heat.
Okay.
And I came in and started being a part of it, and it was at this place that was right like in downtown Kona called The Mix with 2 X's.
Yeah, you got to put 2 X's.
Yeah, and it was like had this like indoor air conditioned bar, and then you walked out to this like multi terraced patio that was fenced in with palm trees,
Oh
like
my
open
God.
air, and it was like the sickest venue.
I went to I've never been to a proper like moonlight, party like at Hawaii or Thailand. Which it will happen, but like I went to Winter Music Conference with Groove Tech a couple times, and one year, I don't know who the DJ was, but we were setting up a stream in this club, and literally, man, it was going for like 45 minutes, and God, the air feels so good, and it's warm, and it's nice, it smells good. And I didn't realize until it got dark that we were actually in open air. There was no roof on this part of the club. And I just like fell in love with it. And I was totally sober, but I was just so into what was going on. And I don't know, man, there's something special about hearing that kind of music on a good sound system outside, with nature, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Hold on, let me flip this for a second.
please.
You were streaming
Yeah.
in.
I don't know
Well,
if
you were part of Groove Tech.
I was part of Groove Tech.
Fucking decades ahead of the game.
Decades, right? I mean, there's like a few influences in my life around music, both individuals and also kind of movements or companies, and Groove Tech is absolutely at the top of the list. They did things and were thinking about things in ways that I still don't think people have sort of reached that maturity yet,
It's just mind blowing how ahead of the curve that whole thing was.
And how many people it influenced, and how many people were buying records from Groove Tech, or just buying records in general because of Groove Tech.
Yeah, walking in to
Yeah.
the upstairs and sitting at like one of those little terminals and placing your order, and then
Absolutely.
going down that ramp down to like the downstairs and like grabbing your records, and you're like, this is fucking high tech, like craziness.
Those guys were absolute visionaries, and I almost feel like, I do feel like just a little bit too far ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I tried to get a job there a couple times, and
Yeah.
they're like, I was like,
I mean, I wouldn't hire you either, so I did. I'm teasing. Yeah, because there was, you would have been.
who hires fucking raver dudes to come work there?
No, they were such smart guys and had such an amazing vision. We'll have to do a Groove Tech episode. Like you said, I want to get Zach, BPM, get
you
John
have
in,
to.
because it would really. Because I came in late, and and I didn't get the full picture. So, but I loved every minute there, man. It was amazing, and the things they did. I mean, for folks that didn't know, this was a company that ran a 24/7 streaming radio station with live DJs that were, and then they were also selling vinyl and CDs, right? And
It was a record store.
was a record
in
store.
a way, but
Yeah.
it was so advanced for the time that it's actually still, kind of advanced in that, like the way they had it set up.
it was amazing. And then we had a studio in London. We had a studio in San Francisco. Like there was so much cool. I'll just give you one funny story. So we were in San Francisco, and Gene Ferris was actually playing in the studio in San Francisco. And it's just this little room, but good, like nice KRK sound. Like everything was dialed in our Groove Tech studios. And the upstairs neighbor was getting mad because Gene Ferris kept cranking the monitors up. He's like, I can't hear it, guys. And he keeps cranking the monitors, and and we kept having to tell Gene Ferris to turn it down. Like, you don't tell Gene Ferris to turn it down, but he was a super cool guy. But there's a million stories like that from that place.
Wait, there was an upstairs neighbor?
In
a commercial
in San
space.
Francisco, yeah, in a commercial space. It was like the neighbor beside or the neighbor upstairs, but it was a building in San Francisco, right in the mix.
Some offices, and there's like
totally
boom, boom, boom in the background.
Totally, it was amazing. Yeah, I mean, I got to give you a little bit of credit because when I went up to your record store and we started talking about the good old days, not in a nostalgic way, but in like oh, this person, oh, you went to this party. Wouldn't it be cool if, like, we had these wouldn't it be cool if conversations? That was part of the inspiration why we're doing what we're doing now, bringing DJs in, bringing producers in, having chats with them, seeing what they mix when there's not that external pressure happening. So in a way, like, that visit that I made to your store was part of what kicked this into gear a little bit. Groove Tech as well. Oh yeah. Like you, Groove Tech, and a lot of other folks in between, but we were just like, man, we can do this. Like who nobody's doing it. Let's do it and make it fun, Yeah. And it's just been a blast so far. But what I was going to say is record store, to me, it's a very like romantic idea. And when I think about anything besides how cool it would be to say I owned a record store, like actually running a record store, I would fucking crash it into the ground. Like it just seems like there's so much complexity and such attention to detail to do it successfully. Like what possessed you to decide to open a record store?
Well, I can't really say that it's gotten off the ground. So let's start there.
Okay.
It's a work in progress. It's my little baby. It's been a dream of mine for a long time, and it was miraculous how it happened.
So but it is, I think that's the first important point. It's been a long-term dream for you. It just wasn't something you necessarily stumbled into. It was a dream, and then it kind of manifested in a number of ways.
Both.
Right? Okay.
Both. So, I mean, like, coming back from, on a visit back to Seattle from Hawaii and doing a search for record stores when I pretty much knew that there was no more dance music record stores.
Yeah.
I knew that Platinum had closed. This was 2016, I think, that I came back for a visit. No, maybe 2017. I don't know. But I came back for a visit, and I searched for, techno record stores, and Looters came up. And I went there, and I got lucky. It was open. Michito and Derek were both working. And I strolled in, and I was like, oh, okay, like, this is pretty much all underground dance music, and I was digging in it, and I met them and bought a stack, and I told them that I might be moving back, and that, I was really excited about what they were doing. And then I did come back for another visit, except the second time I was like, hey, and I came back to Looters. They were still open. This is a pretty small window of time, actually, within like a year.
Right.
And
what year was this? Or
I think this was 2016 and 2017.
Okay.
And I came back there and said this time I was like, hey, I'm moving back here, and I'm looking for a spot where I can rent a space to set up a studio and bump music and not like piss anybody off. And they were like, there actually might be a room upstairs you can rent.
Okay.
And so I moved back to Seattle. I get the guy's number. I get an apartment on Queen Anne. Finally get in touch after like months of trying to freaking get through to the guy that was leasing that building. I mean, I was like, I almost gave up. I was like, I guess don't call me back. I'm trying to rent part of your upstairs for a studio if you don't want to, whatever. Finally called me back, and I ended up renting part of the upstairs, and I set up a 6 studio. And the record store was still going at that point.
But you had nothing to do with it at that
Correct.
point. Right.
Correct. I had nothing to do with it, except I was like trying to like get them to like maybe let me work there or be involved. I had tried to get jobs at record stores many times over the years. Never once would anyone fucking hire me at a record store. I'm like, I don't know. Whatever. I tried to get a job at Guitar Center one time, like so bad. And they were like, no. I'm like, I guess I'll never have a job in the industry that I'm into. Except
so funny.
I take that back. I did work at Potosa Music in Wallingford.
Okay.
This is in like 2000. This is right before I moved to Hawaii. I was working at Do you remember Potosa Music?
No. What, remind me.
Potosa was an accordion shop
That's why I don't know it.
on 45th in Wallingford, but they had a side room that was ran by my. He was just my boss at the time, but now he's a friend, Lionel.
Okay.
Who there was a keyboard shop and they sold like drum machines and synths and software. It was fucking dope.
The cool stuff.
Yeah. And I lived around the corner, like 4 houses down on Latona, right by Pudge Brothers. One of my
I know exactly what you're talking
favorite
about.
pizza joints.
Dude, I used to play hockey, by the way, with the guy who owned Pudge Brothers. Good guy.
Really?
Believe that. Small world. Yeah, totally. Anyway, go on. I'm sorry. This is what happens when you live in Seattle your whole life, though. It's so bad.
Yeah, so I did work at a music shop. But anyways, back to Looters. I rented part of the upstairs. Looters was kind of faltering because the building was supposed to get torn down. That was like why it was kind of a short-sighted situation. It was kind of a pop-up thing, and then they were like, we only have this spot for a little bit. We're not going to dump a bunch of money into it. It's just like, this is what it is. Like, come get it. And they were actually ahead of the game also because they were live streaming back in 2016, 2017, like every Friday night. And I thought that was badass. Like when I first came back to Seattle and they were doing that, I was like, this is cool. And like, and I got a set playing there one time. And I actually, that side story, which I'll get into in a minute, but I want to finish like how I came into that space.
I'm going to put a pin in it.
Pin it, baby. Pin it.
I'll get you there.
So the record shop Looters was kind of like faltering, and I had the studio upstairs, and then I had to get rid of the studio because I couldn't afford at the time my apartment on Queen Anne and the fucking studio. And what happened was that whole building just kind of became like a giant man cave. Like I think they shut the record store down. The upstairs, there was just a bunch of stuff. And at that time, I was trying to, my lease was coming to an end on Queen Anne. I was on Craigslist trying to find apartments, and that is fucking depressing, looking for apartments in Seattle.
I hear.
It is like terrible. And so I was striking out, and I was like, man, there's a whole apartment above the record store, or what was the record store. Maybe so I hit the guy up. I'm like, dude, just you're doing nothing with the building. Let me rent the upstairs.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even actually thinking record store at that point for myself.
Okay.
I was just like, I know there's an apartment up there, and I know I can be loud because I had a studio there. I can fucking bump beats at 4 a.m. No one cares. And so he was like, yeah. And so I moved in there, and then he kind of disappeared a little bit, and I had to call the property owner and like, hey, I just moved in here. I think dude's lease is up in June. I just moved in here. And she's like, you live up there? I'm like,
she didn't even know.
She didn't. She's like, how are you living up there? Because I had to get the shower fixed.
Right.
And, the hot water. And it was just like, it was fucking rough for a minute. But
it seems to be a theme with you, like this sort of scrappy. I mean,
I'm scrappy, baby.
Yeah, dude, you definitely are scrappy. Like, okay, keep going. No, this is interesting.
I mean, I lived in a hut on fucking Maui for a year with like.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I lived in a hut, and there was like outdoor shower, outdoor kitchen. It was in Haiku Camp Awesome. The place is dope, but it is fucking rugged. It's like and you get stuck there.
Yeah.
Like, anyways, so
you tell this lady.
Oh,
you call this lady who has no idea you're living in her place.
Yeah.
You're living in her place.
Yeah, I had just moved in there in like March, and it was a nightmare to move in there. And she's like, you live up there? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, well, I can't get a hold of him, the guy anyways. And I'm like, look, I'm not moving out. I go, why don't you just let me rent the whole building? Because I knew what he was paying. And she's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. And so like I committed to renting the whole building, sold my car so I could pay for the deposit. And then I got that downstairs space where the record store was, and helped the previous tenant get his stuff out, which was another story.
Right.
But and then I actually sat on that space for like 4 or 5 months. I couldn't really do anything with it because I didn't have money to do anything with it. I didn't have furniture to put records on. as soon as I got done with that phone call with the landlord of renting that whole building, I was like, fuck. I was like, I'm opening a fucking record store. It just hit me. I was like, what else would I do with that space? Like, are you kidding me? And I was like, I was just in shock. I was like, can I even do this? Like, I was like, I can. I'm going to fucking do it. I'm going to start with just like some of my own records. I'll build furniture, whatever it takes. And I just started to throw everything at it and made it happen.
And so that was before COVID that you opened.
Yeah. So I acquired the downstairs space in like, June or so of 2018. And, I didn't open till, no, it was 2019. And the shop opened in November of 2019, right before COVID. And that was crazy because I had this like vision of like the shop being like an old 90s dance music record store where like people came in and had to wait for the listening station and like meet other DJs and producers, and like that didn't happen
right away.
It's actually happened big time now. I've had so many people meet each other at the shop, and like people that like people come in and it's like, oh, like, you know, this guy has a sound system, and like you have this, and like it's been what I envisioned, but it was like, you know, 3 years in the making.
Sure. That's, you know, a pandemic is not necessarily something that any of us predicted, though, because I have a feeling it would be just the way it's set up and the way you've gone about it. And I think your general work ethic and your philosophy, it wouldn't be any other way. Like,
wait. A pan what?
What's that?
Just kidding.
What did I say?
I couldn't resist.
No, I think we're all exhausted from it, right? But we're still feeling the ripples from COVID for whatever it is, you know? It's just...
Yeah, and interestingly, I have to thank COVID for what happened to me, because it forced me to go online.
Oh.
I wasn't trying to be an online record store, which I'm not.
Right.
But like, Discogs kind of saved my ass. Love Discogs. Fucking respect. Like, that is like one of the coolest databases in the world.
Right.
Like, it's just, God, I love it. I'm an addict.
Yeah. Personally, and also for your business, right? Like it
helps.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a really good gauge on like what some of these are worth and like how rare they are.
Yeah.
Like, it's the best.
Like, give me an
gauge.
idea, like out of that stack, we're not flexing here. Just give me an idea, like realistically, like what are some of these records worth that you actually played tonight that I never heard?
This one, I think would cost you at least $75 to get. I looked it up the other day.
Oh shit.
This one, 15. This is a $50 record. It's a Nightmares on Wax side project on Nucleus.
Oh, I love that one. That was great. Yeah.
That one's not. This is. Some of these are new releases, so they're just like, $20 a pop.
Right.
Where's another rare one that I played? Some of these, like, they're not really rare, but they're just fucking obscure. Like this Torben label out of Germany, which was kind of put together by OYE Records out of Berlin. And Torben is a side project of, I'm not going to say who it is because it's kind of I know who it is.
It's like a secret.
It is kind of a secret. But the Torben series, these are wild. It's some of that kind of like disco-y tinge, like just weird chunky shit that I was playing. That's just like, it's gritty.
No, was that the one with the real loose like percussion? It still had the clean kick and bass line, but it had the sort of loosey goosey,
real clackety.
That's it.
Hi-hats.
That's what I was talking about.
That like boom, 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 boom.
We were literally. I mean, no offense to you, but Paul and Sangno and I were sitting back here talking about how the fuck is he gonna mix out of that record? Those drums the highs are so loose on that thing.
Yeah, it's not an easy record to mix out of, dude. And I think I pulled it off.
You totally pulled it off. You totally pulled it off. We were impressed.
Oh, so this one, interestingly, this is that super old house record that I played towards the end. And Paul was asking me, he's like, what is like the age range of some of the records that you've played? And I'm like, well, I think this might be one of the oldest ones I played, and it's interestingly, it's called Timeless, and there's no year on it. So
I love it.
this is this is a $100 record. It's hard to find, and it's
Sure.
like people don't want to give it up.
Of course not.
It's on Circuit Records. It's such a gorgeous house tune. It's just I
Yeah,
don't
that
know.
one was great. And that you said Brian Lyons is the only other guy locally that you know who has that one.
As far as I know, because I heard him play it one time, and I was like, dude, like I'm the only other person I know that has this.
That's so cool.
And of course, like he has a giant record collection.
He does.
And if he ever gets rid of it, I want it.
I'd love to get him in here too because
You have
he's
to.
yeah
Oh,
he's
dude.
done so much for the house scene and the music scene. In
That'll be
Seattle.
a solid 3-hour interview.
Yeah, I'd love to
I mean-
sit down and get a chat with him, man, for sure. He's a good guy, and he's done some cool stuff for the city for sure. So I guess without going too deep into the record store thing, like, what is it? Is the record store culture kind of coming back, or is it?
It is.
Okay,
It is.
I wanted to know, like, is this a trend? Are you just a little bit ahead? Because I know that it dipped out. Like, we lost Platinum. There was, all the little ones, Delicious, Orpheum, all these.
I want to list them off really quick.
Yeah, please
because
do.
I want to pay some respect
Absolutely.
to a bunch of the record stores that inspired me that I just couldn't get enough of. Orpheum, I spent so much money there and so much time and so much like the love that was behind that store. I wish it was still there.
100%.
Fucking Orpheum Records on Broadway.
Yep.
Exotic Imports in Belltown.
Yep.
Massa and Marty. Marty was the guy that ran it, who taught me how to handle records at a listening station by forcing you to listen to records out loud, and he would watch you, and if you touched the record wrong, hey, and you'd be like, oh my god, and like Massa, like the quiet, like fucking ripper DJ that was like the
He's like a Jedi.
He was the buyer for that place,
For
and it was
sure.
like Exotic Imports, like.
Right.
Of course, the records are going to be dope. It's called
Yeah.
Exotic Imports. Delicious Music, Carlos da Silva, who threw sick parties back in the day, and I think he lives on Maui now. That was a really underground dance music. Concepts, John Lee's shop.
Yep.
And then, of course, Hyperspace, which was in the same spot as underground dance music. Back to Brian Lyons, both the Beats International locations.
Yep.
Epic record stores. Respect Records, which was only around for a minute.
Where was Respect?
It was like right around the corner from Zion's Gate.
I think I know.
Yeah, kind of a hip hop focused spot.
Yep.
Platinum, of course.
Of course.
Record stores really just got destroyed by the rise of the digital thing, and it makes sense. It's so convenient
And accessible. What do you think is driving people now to is it the lacking of the tangible? Like, what is it? A little philosophical question, but what do you think is driving people now to get back into actually purchasing vinyl records, a piece of media?
I know for a fact that some people have told me that they got bored with digital. They're just like, it's too easy. It's just like, and they're wanting that challenge, and of course, like there's a ton of music that is on vinyl only. That like there's so many records that came out for so many years that nobody's had time to digitize all these.
Right.
It's impossible. Like,
I mean, Groove Tech was doing that. They were digitizing rare like pressings and it was,
yeah.
but to sell the actual record. But yeah, it's time consuming. We had a whole team of guys and girls that were actually digitizing at least samples,
Yeah, people are bored with digital, and there's a whole there's so many younger people that know that there's all this dance music that came out that was like way pre-digital.
Yeah.
That's so timeless and hard to find, and it's like super inspiring, and that whole like sound has really come back around. I mean, I'm gonna think of one person right now, and I'm gonna shout him out. Max from Apartment E Records, which is a local label, comes in and he is very into 1994 specific
Specifically
record.
94.
Yeah, and was it 94? I'm pretty sure it was 94. But like
Love it.
and it's a thing, like music produced. I'm talking about like house and techno, like underground dance music that was produced from like 89, 90, 87 up to like 94. It's got this sound,
Right.
and like after 95, 96, when like a lot of like computers started coming around and software really started to like kind of get to a point where it was a little bit more attainable, and better, and like computer power was like you could actually fucking do something with it and have some memory to save stuff.
And you didn't have to own racks and racks of hardware, right?
Yeah,
I gotcha.
But like the records from like that era, like right up to 94.
Okay.
And I've joked about this, and I still want to do it. I want to record a mix. It's called 94 or Before. That's just like house and techno records that are.
I love it.
Because they have this like fucking looseness and like this like raw analog like punch, and it's just like there's something about them. It's after that, it's hard to recreate that with computers.
Yeah, I think you just made me think back to like one of the stories. Who another person I'd love to talk to, but Sunshine Jones from Dub Tribe,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So his whole journey, I'm gonna sort of compress it, but he adopted digital and everything else, and apparently his car got broken into, and he had all his music and his controller stolen, and basically had to start from scratch, right? And now he just plays live sets. I mean, he'll play DJ sets, but most of the time when you see Sunshine Jones on a bill, he's playing with all analog gear, and it is fucking sick, dude. It is so good. Like seeing him interact with if you just look at a picture, it's mind bending. It's like there's cables everywhere and knobs and just, it's amazing.
And, shout out to Dub Tribe.
Oh my God. Yeah. It is interesting to see the resurgence of record stores and digging culture and vinyl and everything else. And I think you're on the front lines a little bit, right? Like we saw all the stores go away, and not that I want you to have competition, but I think you're sort of showing people that it can be done though, which is good and bad, right? Like
I'm actually kind of waiting for someone else to open up a shop.
Me too,
because I'm like, it could happen, and it would be kind of like I would shop there.
Totally.
Like, I shop at all the record stores in Seattle. I kind of make my rounds, and like I support them all, except for.
I just want to give you a couple quiz questions and see how you answer. And there's no right or wrong answer, first of all, so don't get anxious. I know you get anxious and nervous, but I just want to. I'm curious, right? So for instance, we look at dance music as the umbrella genre. What is the subgenre, the one you'd have to choose if for the rest of forever you could only listen to and play?
Trance.
No, come on, really? That'd be hardcore.
I'm gonna say why before I say what it is. The elements that can be infused into this subgenre, it's just like endless. And the level of moods that can be like used and like where it can go breaks.
Yeah.
I just like, there's something about, and I'm not talking about like new school breaks or like just like really like good kind of like non 4/4, just like that fucking like off beat where it's just like you just want to start shaking your ass, and like, and that's it's not quite like the straight up 4 on the floor yet. It's like this beat that you can use to get people to that point.
Yeah.
Or go in between and kind of bring it down and like tease people to like get back into like everybody. If you love dance music, you love a 4/4 beat where you just like where it gets to that point where it's just like and you're just like fucking getting it on the dance floor. But like really sick breaks, I don't know. There's so much potential and so much like vastness and like it's just endless.
I never thought of it that way, But yeah, there's some of my favorite sets. In fact, Donald Glaude, when I used to specifically go to a rave to watch him because he'd go back and forth between breaks and house, right? Or breaks and techno.
Yeah.
And now that you say that, I never put this together, but the way he would do it, he would build this extra tension with a break beat, which was super intense, and then he dropped the 4/4 beat again and people would just lose their mind, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's really interesting. That makes sense.
It's just, I don't know, there's something like, kind of like primal, especially if you have like a tribal breakbeat.
Oh, yeah.
It's like fucking to get out of the way. If it's a proper, really like chuggy, like tribal breakbeat with just like a simple bass line and like the right hi-hats. Like Dave Zam and myself, one time we came to this conclusion that it's like there's this term for a track when it's just like a kick, a snare, and a bass line, and we're like, it's simple but effective. And it's like you can have the most like small amount of elements, and it can just be like boom, 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 and it's like boom, 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 and you're
just
losing
buzzes
your
out.
shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, breaks for me, like, and I don't want to be fucking labeled a breaks DJ because I'm not. I'm not even actually a DJ.
Come on.
Remember that?
I heard your set. You are definitely a DJ.
No, I just like occasionally play records.
Right.
Here's my thing: is like DJs get gigs and they get paid at those gigs. Like
Only a few of them.
I play out occasionally, and it's
Right.
just sometimes I'm like, oh my god.
Totally.
So I don't know. I'm not really even trying to be a DJ.
No. Well, let me tell you one. You just reminded me of a funny story.
I just love records.
So when I told Sangdo, I said, "Hey, I met Sherman, and I'm gonna go play a vinyl set at his record shop, right?" And Sangdo's like, "Cool." Sangdo's always positive. He goes, "What are you gonna play?" And I go, "I don't know. I'll probably do some breaks in the house." And he goes, "Just so you know, he's kind of like the Yoda of breakbeat. So make sure you bring it." I was like,
"What?"
He just like, because you know your shit around breakbeat, right? And he was just like warning me, like, if I'm gonna do that, come with it. You know what I'm saying? You got a rep for that. I'm telling you, you can't argue with me.
I can because, and I appreciate his comment, but like, I don't consider myself like an expert in anything. I mean, I've been around, but like, doesn't mean like I fucking remember.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's what's saying.
Or like my vocabulary can like, describe all these damn subgenres that keep popping up.
I know, it's amazing. I don't even know. I mean, even doing it full time, like how you stay on top of it that's a feat in itself, right?
I can't.
Yeah, you have to
you
have help, right? You have somebody helping you with this stuff.
Yeah, my friend Paris P. Ross, very, very sick local DJ, is now one of the order writers for Selector, and is just really in their own lane with their knowledge of what's coming out. So what's happening with the purchasing for new stuff for the shop is like we're really going into a very contemporary direction with underground dance music, and I can't even describe some of this stuff, but it's like you got to just come in the shop and check it out.
I love it. Okay,
because with that, that whole situation, there's some stuff that has to be left out because it's other people's lives that were not really going so well, which resulted in that space becoming available. And it's really like magical how I was at the right place at the right time with the right vision, with the right amount of life left in me, with the right amount of experience versus like the lack of things in my own life that would take up the rest of my time, like no kids, I wasn't married, or have a spouse that's like, no, you shouldn't do that, like, no, we need to do this for our, like, I really was the right person at the right time with the right amount of love and motivation and experience to open up a record store like that. So it's a fucking enigma.
No, I talk about this a lot, and in fact, the story of how I met my wife, which I won't bore anybody with, but
please.
We actually cover it in another. Paul and I did a Q&A that we'll post at some point. But the main point of that story is so many random variables had to line up, and if just one of those 10,000 variables would not have lined up, we would not be married right now. We probably wouldn't even know each other.
I just have to say that
Please.
that just happened to me recently. And it's absolutely magical.
But I we'll talk about that in a sec. But I think with your record shop, I think that's, or you don't have to, but I think with your record shop, I think that's what I'm hearing. And I cannot tell you, time and again, this anti-pattern seems to be the pattern, right? Like this pattern of a million random variables in exactly the right order, where if one were just out of sync a bit, you know, it just wouldn't have happened for you.
Yeah, and that's just life, though, I guess. But like, yeah, like.
But I think with the important shit, it seems almost impossible when you're at this point where you're at now, for instance, with your shop. Like if you think back on it now, and you think about all the chain of events that happened to make it happen, and doesn't it feel almost impossible? Like I don't even know how I got here, except I had this vision and all these things lined up, and some of them were just completely out of your control, and they still worked out.
Yeah, like I sit in the shop all the time, and I look around. I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm like, this fucking shop is dope.
it's so tough.
I'm like, how did this happen? And I'm like, well, it took time and a lot of like just
grind and
fucking, oh god, the grind, like nonstop, and like, but like just the love for it is really just the bottom line. And I don't really make that much money doing it. I wish I made more, of course.
Go to his Discogs, right?
And I will.
Yeah, you will.
The shit's starting to blow up, and but like it's gotten to a point where I almost can't keep up. But I asked for that.
You asked for it's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah.
You'll figure that out. I mean, this is, and I don't know if you were intentional about this, but you're creating like a new piece of an old community that's bringing new members into the community that's existed for 25 years, right?
Yeah, and I'm not doing anything new. No. I'm like, I can't tell you how bummed I was when I came back to Seattle, and like there was like pretty much all the record stores that, you know, used to be around. I knew most of them were gone, but I was like,
it's a drag though.
Looters was around, but they weren't buying brand new releases.
Yeah.
There was no record stores that you could go to in Seattle and be like, oh damn, like I can go dig through a bunch of new release house and techno and like breaks and like stuff I've never seen and like hold it in my hand. I was like, fuck, like no one's doing that. I was like, that sucks. Yeah. Like I was like looking forward to like that whole community aspect, or like that pastime of like going and like record shopping.
It's an experience, right? And it's an experience that you sort of do in isolation with other people, right? And that's what I used to love about Platinum. Like everybody's got headphones on a Tuesday when all the new house comes in, but like you say, hey, what's up? Everybody, it's like we're working, we're communicating, we're hanging out, but we're also like we're digging into our own shit and trying to figure out our set for the next weekend or whatever, right?
Yeah, I mean I missed that for a long time.
Yeah, like
living in Hawaii, there was no shops like that on the Big Island.
I almost spilled.
Good save.
Last time I dropped a whole thing of water. There's no electronics.
No, but like I was bummed when, you know, I knew the state of record stores, you know, worldwide. You know, it was not a good thing. Record stores and labels had gone away.
Yeah.
So I was, you know, the fact that I was able to pull this off is, it's been fucking magical.
Yeah, I mean, you pulled it off, and you're still pulling it off, and it's just, it's fun to watch, and that, like, the minute I met you, I knew, like I told you, it helped sort of feed into the idea of doing this actual show, but also I was like, I got to get that guy in here do a set and talk to me. You know what I mean? Like, and it's been,
Thank you.
yeah, no, man, it's been awesome. And I just appreciate you helping us out, being part of what we're trying to create.
Oh, yeah.
As far as like future for the shop, right? Is there a vision for the shop? Like beyond what you're doing now?
Well, there needs to be more of a vision, but like part of that vision is to streamline the subgenres of what's in there. We're trying to get a lot more brand new stuff in there, and keep and have a large selection of new release stuff. It's just so expensive.
Right.
So
Like what is the average 12-inch now import?
I don't want to say the wholesale cost.
No,
but,
just what it's going to cost an end user. $20?
$20.
Yeah.
$19.95. I mean, like, and I'm on like the low end. Like some shops are charging
24,
like,
25.
yeah, $23.95 for an import 12-inch. And
Yep.
I remember when they were fucking $8.99.
$8.99, even cheaper through Groove Tech, because we had a London studio, so we could get imports for like $1 cheaper than everybody else.
Yeah.
Another brilliant plan, man.
Let's bring Groove Tech back. You and I talked about
Yeah.
this, and it's not. God damn.
We come in doing a DJ set. Like I always love that about Groove Tech, but I even back then, I thought it was a little bit of a miss that we didn't get to know like Diesel Boy or DJ Swamp or some of these huge names that came through.
Wait, they played sets there,
Oh yeah.
but you didn't get to talk to
No,
them.
we didn't get to talk to him.
Yeah.
We didn't get to interview him.
Yeah,
Like
they were just
yeah. I think people want to know I think people like to get to know people, but they also like to hear about their struggle. They like to hear that they're humans. They're not just some super producer or festival DJ that was just dropped in out of the sky. Because I think we get in that delusion sometimes, like, oh, it's just that guy. He just got super lucky, or he has all the assets. But the truth is, everybody's struggled in their own way to get to where they're at in music.
Yeah.
So, okay, so your vision for the shop. I mean, like, would you ever want to be in like a bigger space, have a performance space, something like that? I mean, you kind of do have a performance space right now.
I need a bigger space.
I would love you to get a bigger space.
But I live above the shop.
Yeah, and your space has a good vibe.
And like, where am I going to find that again? That's kind of like the fear. And then the landlord is like not cool. And
Hopefully she doesn't listen to this.
she tried to just like boot me out last summer with a 30-day notice. And I was
Right.
like, well, let's try 90 days first of all.
Right.
But like, why? What are you trying to do here? And she was just trying to like double the rent. And so I talked her down a little bit. I smooth talked her a little bit, and I held my ground. And
Good.
the rent went way up, but I think she's gonna do the same thing this summer, which is like I don't know. But I need a bigger spot anyways.
Yeah.
I'm out of room.
Yeah.
So
I mean, in an ideal world, I would love to have a space outside of my house to do what we're doing here. Like a mixed use, have some offices, performance studio, pool table, lounge area. So maybe we just go in and get a giant space together. You run your record shop out of it. We'll talk offline. But that would be the dream for me too, is for my wife too, to get this out of my house. But right now it is what it is.
Does she want to use this area for something?
She did all the paintings behind you.
Really?
Yeah, that's her. She's an artsy lady.
Damn.
I know, she's a badass. She did this one, like this was the very first one she did just on a whim for me, and it is like the background of everything Seattle House Mafia now. So I got to give her props. My beautiful wife Heidi.
That's so dope.
I know, she's pretty great.
I was actually like, I was looking at these and I was like who did that? But there was so much going on. I didn't get a chance to be like,
Yeah.
yo, who's doing these? And like,
It's my
damn,
wife. It's my wife,
what?
man. Yeah. Well, so tell me this. So I see where you're going with the shop. How about, like, I know we didn't talk that much about your DJing, but is there plans for you to DJ, get bigger doing the DJ thing, the production thing, or is your focus really on kind of
You
the
like
shop?
that face I made, like
Yeah.
DJing? I'm like, everybody's a fucking DJ
That's the
now. It's
truth,
like
man.
I actually quit DJing multiple times. I was like everyone's a fucking DJ. Like what? Like I love the music, but like all this like toting the fucking turntables around into the jungle and like
It's a lot
like
of
nobody
work.
gives a shit. Like what?
Right.
Like I would throw down like a dope ass like house and break set. Like I'm talking Hawaii specific now.
Sure.
I remember several times where like I lugged the turntables to this party, and it was a pain in the ass, and like I kind of like played okay. I'm not gonna say I threw down because
Right.
like who says that? Oh, I fucking threw down. Like,
Right.
but like I played some cool music, and like I thought it should like work well, and then like people are like, you know, like, and I'm thinking more like these younger people, and then like this person would get on after me and start playing like gnarly dubstep. This was like my introduction to dubstep. Was out there, and I was like, and like all these kids started going nuts,
crazy.
and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And like that's a funny story within itself, because I had a bad introduction to dubstep. I was
Right.
like, this is absolute fucking garbage. Sorry, dubstep. But I didn't hear the right stuff at first.
Totally. There's some cool shit out
no,
there. No,
I didn't realize. So all these people that were playing dubstep in Hawaii were playing digital. So
Right.
I had never seen a dubstep record. Being in Hawaii for 12 years, and not that many people playing records, and the rise of dubstep, I never saw a dubstep
Right.
record.
Right.
Until I had a fucking record store, and it was right, like within like a month or two of me opening, this guy came into the record store, and I'm like, hey, he's like, I got some records I want to sell you, and he brought in like 2 boxes, and I'm like, well, what kind of stuff is it? And he goes, it's mostly dubstep, and I was like, I wish I could have seen my face,
Right.
like a video of it, because like in my mind I was like, but I didn't make that face. I was like, oh, cool, like I don't know what face I made actually, but I was like, well, maybe if you like leave it and I'll look through it. And he's like, yeah, I'll just leave it here and like go through it and like let me know what you want to give me for it. And I was like, cool. And I kind of like just took the boxes, and I was like, and I just put them in the back, and then the fucking pandemic hit. And like this was probably like 2 weeks before
Right.
like shit really went down, and so like the boxes of records sat in the back for like a couple months. I was like, I'll get to it.
Right.
I'll get to those dubstep records.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden one day it was time, and I pulled them out. I was like, what the fuck? What's in here? And I started pulling them out. I'm like, I don't recognize any of this shit. Like, who are these artists?
Right.
What are these labels? And I looked at a couple of them up. I threw one on, and I was like, whoa. And I remember like I threw on one. This is how I discovered Hessel Audio, which is a really sick label. I threw one on, and I was like, this is dubstep. And I was like, whoa. I mean, it was fucking badass.
Yeah.
And I kept that record, and the artist is Pangea.
Okay. Shout out
It
Pangea.
fucking blew my mind. And I was like, I didn't know dubstep like that.
Right.
I hadn't been exposed to it. And I was looking some of these records up, and $100, fucking $80. And I was like, Jesus Christ, I didn't know.
Right.
And so I got exposed to that kind of stuff. I don't even like want to call it dubstep, because
Right.
it's like, it's almost not. It's
Right.
just like this like other kind of dance music, and I just didn't know that it was around, because it was on this remote island for fucking over 10 years, and like nobody had those kind of records out there, and they weren't playing that kind of dubstep. It was like bro step. I gotta rewind, because there's quite a few people out on the Big Island that did play good stuff, but it just like,
Gotcha. I know what you mean though with the bro step, and it just infiltrated everything for a minute, right?
I guess I don't, because like I was out there for 12 years, and I'd never watched TV, so like I didn't see like the rise of like that type of music in commercials even. Like I know like it happened.
Yeah.
I just wasn't paying attention, and I feel like it's funny, because like I'm like, what if I never moved to Hawaii? Still in Seattle this whole time. Like where would I be? Like what the hell would I be doing?
You wouldn't have a record shop. And
I don't know.
I don't know, man. I feel like again, it goes back to that variable conversation. Like you did all this stuff. I mean, this is what's so fun about watching your journey, the little bit I know about you, and watching your journey, where you're at right now, age-wise, and what you've accomplished. But I think everything was kind of setting the table for where you're at right now. That's my personal observation.
I think so.
And here you are.
Yeah, I think like I don't. with the whole record store thing, it surprises me that there wasn't someone else that was stepping in to fill that void for like a dance music focused record store in Seattle, which is a city that's known for music.
For sure.
That was another thing where I was like, man, like this is like Seattle's known for it's not known for dance music, but it's a fucking music town.
Some music. We're an artsy town and a music town for sure.
Yeah, and I'm like, there's not gonna be like a dance music record store. Like, someone's got to do it.
I love that you did it, man.
Me too.
I love that you did it. I love that you're in it, and I love that I know you now. Then it's going to be fun to watch the journey, because I think you got some big stuff ahead. That's my prediction.
I hope so. I'm gonna make it so.
I think you should.
Why not?
You got the
Fuck
recipe. Do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go half-ass on this.
Here's the thing, though. I'm working on the recipe. There's some tweaks that need to happen. A little bit more like salt and pepper, and like fucking.
I get it.
You gotta heat it up a little bit, like some spices.
Yeah. But you got the main components, right? You got the main components. You got flyers on the fucking ceiling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nobody else got flyers on the ceiling.
I don't think so.
Nobody else has been watching it since the 90s, man. I mean, there have been, but nobody's been curating and sort of building it like you have.
I want to say that in the front window of the shop, the very first rave I went to, which was called Jane Sees Plaid, and I want to shout out Frogger from Snap, Crackle, and Pop Productions for throwing that party. And I found out just fucking on Saturday night from Nikki Valentine, who I didn't know that Nikki worked at Orpheum and at Underground Dance Music.
Yeah,
I didn't know that until Saturday, and I was telling him about the first rave I went to, and he was like, "Where was it?" And I was like, "I was at this like warehouse on like 5th and like Blanchard, like right under the monorail." And he was like, "That was fucking," I forget what he said, but it was like kind of a well-known spot for a second. And that was where Mark Naff first like threw his extra sound system in this fucking warehouse. And I went to my first rave with an early like Mark Naff gigantic sound system, and I was fucking blown away. I had never heard that much bass in my life, and I had never seen that many different types of people all getting down to like one sound like that like intensely and that happily, like would no one give a shit.
Just like uninhibited, right? Like
no one gave a fuck that like you look like you were from the street, or you look like you just came from a fucking college dorm party, or you were an adult, or you were a kid, you were black, white, fucking did not fucking matter.
Yeah.
Everyone was just like, and I was 17 and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So anyways, that I stayed till the lights came on, and the first flyer that anyone ever handed me was for a party called Mad Hatter's Tea Party 2, and it was shaped like a mushroom. And I have it.
I love those flyers, man.
Yeah, I have it taped to the inside of the record store with the information side facing out, so that if someone walks up to the record store and they're like, "Oh, the Selector, like this is a record store. What kind of record store is this?" Like, and they'll see the little rave flyer fucking from 1992 in the window with all like the funny little things they said, and like the DJs, and like it says something like, "Last year a warehouse event was born." So I forget what it says, but it's like, okay, that's that kind of,
it always had like this folklore and this mystique and this mystery about it, and I love that shit, man. Yeah, those flyers are so fun.
Yeah, so I do want to finish putting them up on the ceiling, but we'll see what's happening with the landlord, because that's very time consuming to put flyers on the ceiling.
No kidding. Well, when before we end on that note, landlord and flyers on the ceiling, is there anybody else you want to shout out? Any current projects you're working on outside of the shop? I mean, it can have to do with the shop too. Just want to give you that.
I do not want to draw a blank right now for fucking shout outs, because I'm on like, I think at least 4 days in a row of 3 hours of sleep or less.
I get it.
And it's like I'm a tweaker without the tweak.
Totally. Well, I'm glad you threw down the set first, because that was awesome.
Oh yeah. Like that went well.
It went well.
And I will say it was very fucking, and I have the records right here because we were going to talk about them, but
and we did, didn't we? We
did a little bit. But that was really hard to pick out records for this because I'm overwhelmed with records, and it's a good thing. But when like if you're trying to play a set and your tastes are so like all over the place and you have thousands of records to choose from, you're like, all right, where do I start?
But to me, the fact that that's important to you, you could have grabbed a handful of 123 BPM house records that were a little jazzy and just come in here and spent 15 minutes pulling stuff and played a little set, but you didn't do that. And that to me is important. And that's why I want to have guys like you in here, because you give a massive shit about the music itself, right?
Well, I have PS.
What's PS?
Perfectionist syndrome.
Yeah, I know that scene.
So when I know like shit's gonna be archived or recorded, I'm like, well, I want it to be good. I want it to be memorable. I want it to be different. I want it to kind of maybe tell a story, but like be something that someone would want to go back and listen to, and that can be difficult to puzzle together. And it's easy for some people, but
I don't think so. I don't think the people that care, the people at perfection, I don't know if it's ever easy.
Well, it can happen easily when you're in the right, when you have the right stack of records, and
Sure.
it helps if they are fucking similar.
Right.
That helps, but the stuff that I like, it's so mood dependent, and like it's so easy to like, you can beat match this shit all day, but did the moods line up? Did you just like completely kill the vibe? Yeah, you beat matched it perfectly, but it went, or maybe it went the opposite direction. And beat matching isn't everything.
It's not.
It's
and,
really,
and I think even with technology, I think there's even some of that nuance lost. I was talking to Amy about it. There's a lot of real-time decision making. There's all this preparation, right, that people don't understand with the DJ, but then there's a lot of real-time decision making that happens based on the energy of the room and the vibe of the space and the time slot and all these other things. And hopefully, I mean, it's I don't think everybody who actually plays out understands that, believe it or not. And you've probably seen it before.
I hope they do. And then
I don't think they do, man.
Yeah.
But they're learning, it's a different generation, and, I think they have their own challenges and things, but the technology has changed things for the good and for the bad. The accessibility, I think, has changed things for the good and for the bad to a certain degree. And so it's, but I do think that the consistent thread is the people that do give a shit. You can tell if you've been in it as long as you have and paying attention as long as I have, you can tell.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that you always do well. Like
I
fucking blew it the other night at our second monthly at Kremwork called Vinyl Mode. Me and Paris were switching every 30 minutes, and I did well on my first 2 30-minute little slots. My third one, I blew it. I just I don't know, it didn't.
How'd you blow it?
Well, just the records I decided to play didn't work, and like a couple mixes in, I didn't get the volume right on the next one, and it just was kind of it
dipped out.
It dipped out, and then the next one, I was locked into the mix, and then one of the records skipped, and I was like, I just took my headphone and kind of swirled it and laughed, and a couple people laughed, and Paris was like, I was like, I'm done. Paris was like, you're done. And just kind of
Right.
and it was,
Yeah.
it doesn't always go well.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
It's funny. Paul and I were doing, you're right. Paul and I were doing a set for this Burning Man thing. And one of the CDJs was wonky and started running.
What?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
It did, man. It was funky.
What do you mean wonky?
It was running.
You said wonky.
It was wonky. It was running. It was it started running fast, and Paul did the same thing. He's like, yo, I'm out. I'm like, fair enough. It was my turn coming up anyway, but he's just like, it's on you now, man. I don't want to.
I thought CDJs were perfect all the time.
Never. No, technology is not perfect. That's a good lesson for the kids as well. Kids, technology is not perfect. Be prepared for the worst.
And I'm actually CDJs kind of frighten me a little bit because there's too many fucking buttons.
There's a lot of buttons.
And it's you do the wrong thing and the music will just stop.
Absolutely.
There's no skip or it's just
yeah.
And everyone's and you're like,
yeah.
and then everyone's and you're like, okay, this next track, start. Like,
Totally.
that shit's scary.
We've all been there, man. We've all been there. I don't know. Anything else you want to share before we go?
No,
I know it's late.
I'm done.
You're done?
I'm just kidding.
You're out? No, man. I appreciate you coming through, throwing down, having a chat with me. It's been great.
I am honored to come by. And like, I want to say that I was like, you want to interview me? I'm like,
hell yeah.
I'm like, I was never, I really wanted to say this, and have it put on record. I don't feel like I was ever I'm not an integral part of like any music scene. I was just a participant and a lover, and like, you know, I tried to DJ back in the day, and I did a little bit. I was never a household name. I just fucking loved it, and for you to want to interview me, I'm like, well, what did I ever do? But we talked about this briefly. It's like you said, it's not about what you did in the past. It's what you're doing now.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that's exactly right.
Well, that makes sense. I guess, you know, I have a record store that's focused on dance music, and it's not, I don't even consider what I'm doing an integral part of the scene. I think it's becoming that.
Yeah.
And I want it to be kind of a hub for people to like come into and network and meet people and like get excited and have that same feeling that I had back when I first got into it. Like that excitement of like, what are all these records? Like, holy shit, like mind blown. So it's finally happening. Yeah, for you to want to have me on this,
of course,
I'm
man.
honored.
Yeah, and this is the exact reason why it's this combination of folks like you. You have this context and this perspective coming from the old scene, and this humility.
I was just a fucking dancer. I was just like, I was going to the raves and just like.
I heard you were the rave lord.
No. I was just a young partier who liked to do acid and fucking and go dance my ass off and fucking.
Hell yeah.
I just was over by the speaker stacks. I was not like a candy raver or anything. I was just like a fucking like. I love like just getting down and dancing around people that I don't know, and we're all in the same vibe, just fucking like hugging and high fiving, just like just getting it. Like, it's just like life changing.
Some people will never experience that in their lifetime, man. That's the thing that blows my mind. And they'll experience maybe a portion of that, but I feel like we really did experience the golden era, at least in the Northwest, of that particular vibe, that particular scene, and I do miss it. But it made me who I am today. It made you who you are today, and I think it fed into what we're trying to do now, and that's important, right?
Yeah, I mean, back then, it was new for everyone.
Yeah.
Like nobody knew really what was going on. It was epic.
It was epic. Oh, man,
and it still can be. And there's a whole new generation of people kind of doing the same thing, but it's everybody already knows about it. Is the thing.
Sure.
Back then, it was this mysterious party.
That's right.
And anyways,
well, dude, thanks for coming through, man. This has been great.
Yeah,
appreciate it. Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Nice.
Okay. Aloha.
Seattle House Mafia.